Good morning.
Good morning.
I like your new corner, Suzanne.
Thanks. Giving it a try.
Yeah, me too. I woke up to move this in your office and do this. I was like, ah, I will get to it.
I've been feeling a lot of stirring, and so I've basically ripped everything out of my office. And it's no mere coincidence of the key that we're dancing in this week.
Let's talk about our topic today, please.
So we are going to be talking about this cosmic guardian, and her gene key of purpose comes with gene key 47. And we're talking about gene keys that are written by Richard Rudd, and it's states of consciousness. And so I call it a her, but yeah. So that's how I resonate with it. You can call whatever light being you want. So the shadow of this key is oppression, and that's the deep stuff, the hopelessness, or a very dogmatic, this is the way and the only way kind of vibe that may be hopefully transcended as it grows out of that muck, grows the gift of transmutation. And the Siddhic state, or the highest essence, is transfiguration. And this is all about transmuting the past. And it just happens to be in this week of the pulse, which is our energy of what's happening globally, is the 55th gene key. And, the shadow of that is victimization, where people are very complainy or blamey.
Or both.
But out of that, victimization, we once we take ownership, we can morph into freedom. And that's the gift out of it. And the Siddhic state, again, this is a very interesting key, because there, beyond freedom, there isn't anything. I mean, it's freedom, and then there's more freedom, and it's an expansive journey, and it's actually known as the dragonfly dream. It's the coming out of the mud, coming out of the water into the air, and really transmuting that energy.
And where I think it's fascinating is this more, when was I listening to it for the first or second or third time? I think it was yesterday afternoon. Um, the My take on that was feeling the freedom to choose freedom. Like I feel like there's a freedom 1.0 and then a freedom 10.0 or a million point oh. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, but when we get to the gift stage, uh, and my epiphany around this was I remember feeling after a breakthrough, you're working on something or you're in this deep, intensive retreat, and then all of a sudden, like there's this, like the bells and the angels are singing and there's all this light and you're like, oh, I see how this all fits together. And then there's this, like, you feel 10 years younger, 20 pounds lighter. I mean, it just literally feels, there's a sense of freedom. And I've had clients tell me that they have rediscovered their freedom because they've gotten rid of stuff. So I just thought, what would it be like to have the freedom to choose freedom, to be freedom, be free enough to be in freedom? I don't know. So that was my take on this week's energy. But the victimization I thought was so beautifully tied into oppression, because both of those mean that you don't have your own power, right?
Exactly.
Oppression is very much, and what I really appreciated was, and I forget which one it was, but how we are born already carrying a lot of karma, a lot of ancestral stuff, a lot of muck is what he calls junk DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we expand or choose lightness or choose freedom or, step beyond that story of what I was born into, we are transmuting the karma.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, these really feel so beautifully intertwined. And what a great purpose this being has. And how can we embody more of those energies within us? Because I feel like that's what we're doing right now, right? The light beings are the ones that are going, yeah, that's not all the truth. Everything you're seeing out there on the media, what's true here? And he always says, and return to the belly. And so I put my hands down, and when I breathe down there, I'm like, oh, this is truth. That stuff is just a Netflix show or Hulu or whoever, Paramount, whatever you watch. So I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk about, yes, this other being doesn't have the human shadowy side, but we do. And how can we use that shadowy stuff to be the fuel to choose lightness and freedom and transmutation? And
yeah, I'll use my life as an example. I was feeling pretty crunchy, and I was like, that stuff has to clear out. Like, I feel my own beingness is morphing. So that's that transmutation aspect. And so nothing quite feels like it fits in my space. Like, what I thought I was doing, I don't even know if this makes any sense, like how I would work with clients or whatever, it's all changing. And so the tools that I am using, I'm moving it around and like stepping it away out of my space to see how it feels. So I'm like, literally, it's kind of like trying on clothes, but I'm doing it in my space. Right.
yeah, and it's the same thing as it's mirroring what's going on inside, right? We play with our external circumstances as we're learning and growing and changing. And I love that you're trying on new things. And of course, it does make a lot of sense. I think to a lot of people, we're all feeling that, who I used to be even 3 months ago isn't who I am now.
Yeah.
I mean, so much. The fact that Pope Francis came up with the term, which I had never heard before until I read it in one of his epistles or whatever he writes, he mentioned the term rapidification, that we are in a time of rapidification. So it's rapidly shifting and growing so fast that what happened last week, yesterday,
obsolete.
this morning, I know. And what's funny is I used to have this where I would send an email and then afterwards I would like, oh my God, should I have worded it different? I wonder how they're going to receive. And now I'm like, it's gone. When they receive it and respond, I'm not even going to be the same person anyway. So just, it's like,
oh, God bless us.
everyone.
Well, and I was like, okay, what do I need to know today? This is where it gets to brass tacks. I'm like, okay, I feel like I want to change the smells in my office. I want to drink water. I'm having now my cup of coffee. And then I look onto my shelf and I'm like, I haven't picked up that book in a long time. So it is How to Love. How do we pronounce his name?
Thich Nhat Hanh.
Yeah. And I opened it to fulfillment, this little writing about fulfillment. And he says, we should practice in such a way that every moment is fulfilling. We should feel satisfaction in every breath, in every step, in every action. This is true fulfillment. When you breathe in and out, there's fulfillment. When you take a step, there is fulfillment. When you perform any action, there's fulfillment that comes from living deeply in the present moment.
Mm.
And just being with that. We don't have to be anyplace else. It's okay to be fulfilled by being.
And I'm safe to be fulfilled versus I used to feel like I had to work really hard to be fulfilled, or I couldn't allow myself to be fulfilled because there's always something else to be done. And I'm like, that's slowly falling away. It's still there, but.
Well, it's interesting because it dovetails into the 55, because Richard talks about the fact that we go from a place of doing to actually being.
Yeah. Which is my life's work, being. And so there's days where I'm like, well, did I do anything today? And I was like, I've been being. Yes, that's your job. Be. So I have, thank you for sharing that. I'm also reminded of the quote that Richard says in the Pearl sequence, I breathe, therefore I prosper. And I think as long as we're able to take a breath, we are prosperous. And we tend to think it means so many other things. But I like the idea of choosing fulfillment, choosing freedom, and choosing prosperity in the moment. I have mudras. Do you want me to share them? And which one would you like to do first, the freedom one or the transfiguration one?
Let's do transfiguration.
Hold on, that's a good one. It's kind of a scary one. So it's like you can imagine the crown of thorns that they put on Jesus's head, but I choose to think of it as a nourishing crown of,
Change.
opening to change. So you take your fingers and you interlace them towards your palms and you put them on top of your head so that every finger pad is touching a part of your scalp. And at first, when I was doing it, I was squeezing and pushing hard because we do want to touch the pulse points, but we don't need to be, we can be gentle. That's a new word for me, gentle. So just allowing there to be openings, allowing there to be the meridians that are becoming, I'm changing, I'm growing into something new. And this is my connection to the higher realms, right?
Remember, this is our connection to grace.
Oh, absolutely.
This is the programming partner from last week, which is her radiance.
And the longer I hold this, I'm starting to cry.
Yeah.
Because there's something pretty beautiful about it.
Yeah.
So if you are standing, he strongly suggests that you unlock your knees and you breathe into your belly and that you just hold this as long as you feel the desire and the need and the compelling, the touch. Yeah. And what a beautiful thing to transfer into freedom. So this one I find fascinating because it's basically your index fingers with your thumb wrapped over your others. And the Chinese have called it the dragon's tooth. And what I love about that is we're energetically clearing and cutting away the stuff that keeps us from our freedom. And so, yeah, if you think about where do I not feel free? And breathe into that. And then imagine that this dragon's tooth is like, the other thing I like to imagine is Archangel Michael's sword of truth, right? Just going, or Zorro, whatever your image you want to use, to literally cut it away. It doesn't need to, we don't need it. Let's transmute it. Let's make a new way of being, freedom. Oh my. I don't know why, but I'm feeling a bit verklempt. A lot of Saturday Night Live reruns over the weekend. So do you have other thoughts on, this is our last week before we do integration of the Cosmic Guardian. How else do you think, I feel like she's so near and just waiting for the invitation for us to say, yes, please.
Yeah. And just as a reminder, the words or the gifts that she's sharing with us is synergy, artfulness, graciousness, and transmutation. She's a very gentle being that is helping us come together in harmony.
Feminine, compassionate. She's, I feel like she's holding us in all of our perceived brokenness, because we're not, but we feel like we're, I mean, what I love is even the leadership work that I'm reading right now, and the workshops that my colleagues are offering have to do with healing your parts and becoming whole.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that if we're talking about that in the business world, in the leadership world, maybe it's not so far out there anyway. Maybe it's right here, right now.
Yeah, I'm actually a part of another circle that I really have appreciated. One of like their tenets, so to speak, and it's really about seeing the other as whole, like in the circle. And I think that's really important. You know, some people go, you know, it's very hard for me to see that I'm whole, you know, but you are. You're all, you know, you don't need anything from anyone.
Right.
It's we are each whole and complete. With self-compassion and the support of others, we're able to evolve into the best version of ourselves. And I think that there's a lot of reverence there, a lot of honor of our path, each one of our paths. So it's not just the beauty is in the being with one another.
There's definitely shifts. My partner woke up and shared a dream with me this morning that was like, to me, it felt like him remembering coming into this body to do the work he's here to do, because he couldn't remember coming through across the ocean, but I'm just like, I just feel there's such a palpable interconnected consciousness. I mean, there always has been the unified field, but we're actually talking about it in psychological, community, leadership trainings, personal development, spiritual. Yes, of course, we've known that, but all these other classrooms and playrooms we're learning that we're all of these things. I mean, even Pixar with their, movies for kids, right? So I'm so grateful to be here during this time, even though, yeah, it's tough. There's so much beauty too. So, and I want to thank you, because these conversations wouldn't happen if it was just me talking to myself down on my couch. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you too. And thank everybody. I'm thanking you and everybody else who is courageous enough to show up and be here now. So, and
if there's anyone that might need to hear these words, I mean, we would love for you to share this. it's not about numbers. It's not really, because Susanne and I do that. We would have these conversations anyway, but we feel like there's something that's healing us that we're hoping is, what do you want to call it? That's
useful,
rippling out. Yeah. Yeah. So peace out, babe.
Till next time. And
okay. See ya. Yep. Oh, for the integration next time. Okay.